Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new video here at tablemon. Thank you so much for tuning in. So, I know we just had Knoxville Regionals. There's still a few events happening all over the world. We have Dortmund Regionals, we have Utrecht special event, we have Guyana Regional over in Latin America, and we have Vancouver Regionals. But I'm sure for most of you, you are very interested in starting to test and starting to think about the new rotation and the F mark onwards that will happen at EUIC and following that Orlando Regional. So today marks the day where we're going to start with the coverage of new decks. We're going to be starting a sort of series where we're taking a look at what does Charizard EX look like for post rotation, and we're going to be doing that for a lot of the current existing decks and also for brand new decks that will now be viable from the new set. So starting off with Charizard, this is all from Japan. All right, so feel free to yap at them if there's something you don't agree with, but these lists are from Japan, some of the ones that I found the most interesting and the most useful. And so it seems like Charizard EX is the #1 contender of the format, to nobody's surprise, right? A lot of decks get weakened, but especially Charizard, there's no more fear for Path to a Peak. Its major enemies cannot slow it down at all, and it gains quite a few cool tool cards, which we'll get into that right now. Yeah, the first brand new card that we are going to be including is the Friendship Puffin. Now, Friendship Puffin, as the name correctly says, allows you to get 2 Pokemon that have 70 HP or lower from your deck and put them onto your bench. So similar to Nest Ball with the restriction of the bench, but you get 2 Pokemon out, and of course we're going to be getting our Charmanders and our Pidgeys and possibly our Manaphy to protect our bench. Basically our Battle VIP Pass replacement, which is great, absolutely fantastic to have, and will definitely be a big inclusion in this deck. So the big loss is Mew. That's not the biggest of deals. I do think Lost Box will be weakened, therefore Jirachi is less useful overall. That's why it's not part of the deck list. And we have the Friendship Puffin to be able to just Arven for Friendship Puffin instead of Battle VIP Pass, and we are good to go. Now, the next inclusion is the A-Spec. Yeah, the maximum belt is the A-Spec of choice. A lot of you will be wondering why not the Great Catcher, or I forgot the name, the essentially item Guzma card, which is fantastic, right? Allows you to cost, allows you to switch. You always have Pidgey DX for free retreat, pretty simple. You can plan for it, which is very nice. It can also be fetched by Arven, but so can Counter Catcher, right? And getting this bonus plus 50 damage really fixes some nice math. Yeah, now Charizard EX can lead dealing 230 damage. And you know what Pokemon have 230 damage or 230 HP or less? Pretty much all of them. Yeah, all the big basic Pokemon that are relevant in our format: Iron Hands, Miraidon, Iron Leaves, Iron Crown, Raging Fire, Raging Bolt, everything has 230 HP or less, and therefore this belt just fixes all the numbers that you need. And now you don't need to give up a few prize cards in order to dish out the big damage. And of course, as the game progresses and your damage builds up, so will the maximum belt allow you to hit for bigger and bigger numbers. So pretty fantastic card to have. We are seeing a lot of variety happening in Japan. I will be trying out a lot of different A-Specs and builds, but for now, I really like the theory behind this. Yeah, and I always say this when I start covering the new decks for rotation. All of this is purely from a theoretical standpoint. All right, this is where I try to use my 20 years of experience that I have playing this game and be like, okay, this usually happens. This is definitely very relevant, right? This is 20 years accumulated of knowledge and analysis that hopefully I can convey to you, the viewer, that will be useful, right? So the maximum belt, I really think that will be most of the time the A-Spec of choice. Other good options definitely include the Catcher A-Spec, which is fantastic, and also the tool that gives you extra HP that definitely has a little bit of merit just because you have a 430 HP monster in Charizard EX that is really difficult to take down. Now, whether that works out or not, that's a whole other story, but just something to consider. And then the final card that is being included in this deck list as a way to help round out the matchups is Mist Energy. Mist Energy prevents all effects of attacks done to the Pokemon that it's attached to, except damage, right? Well, damage is not an effect, but you get my point. So now, guess who can't start Requiem to knock out your Charizard EX? Giratina V-Star, right? Giratina V-Star seems to fall off a decent amount. There's only one copy, right? Usually should only need to protect once. You can quick search for it, and you have Infernal Rain to just accelerate the fire energy, so your energy per turn can easily be the Mist Energy to make sure that you are protecting whatever needs protecting, right? And you can definitely use that to potentially protect from a Sableye Snipe if that ever happens, or any future effects of attacks from future Pokemon, not necessarily the future branded, but just like any Pokemon released in future sets that has powerful effects of attacks. This Mist Energy will definitely be coming into play and will be likely a card that is very beneficial and here to stay. So 3 new inclusions that I think are very impactful, really cool cards to see, and cards that Charizard will either or will really benefit from, especially the Puffins, right? The Battle VIP Pass replacement, very nice. No more Path to a Peak, so we don't need to run a lot of stadiums either. And we have our Pidgeot to set up, and the Maximum Belt to help us dish extra damage, and Mist Energy to help us protect our Charizard even further. So far from Japan, we are seeing a split between the Pidgeot version and the Bibarel version. Nothing else in terms of the structure of the deck changes for the Pidgeot version, in my opinion. It's what we are seeing in Japan, so I think it makes a lot of sense. The deck is already very nice, very powerful, and very fluid, and the 1-for-1 almost Battle VIP Pass replacement for the Puffins is absolutely fantastic. So this deck is already very powerful and remains very powerful come rotation, and probably gets even better because a couple of its counters, aka Path to a Peak, are gone or they're weakened, such as the Lost Box version or the Lost One version of Giratina V-Star. So Charizard, will this deck be the #1 in the format? Very likely, right? So we're hoping that eventually we're gonna see a lot more grass Pokemon to help bring down the Charizard reign. And so, as I was saying, with no Path to a Peak, not playing Pidgeot EX feels like a crime to me. However, we are seeing Japan have some good results, and the Bibarel version of Charizard is having something to say, at least initially. So this is what a Bibarel version of Charizard could possibly look like. All right, so same structure of Charizard, the 4-1-3 line with the 4 root candies, same structure as well with the Arven, the Iono, the Bosses Orders, but we have our Bibarel line instead of Pidgeot now. Pidgeot versus Bibarel, I don't think they're comparable in the sense that they do very different things. Bibarel is a good crutch late game, and it's also frail. Pidgeot EX is incredible the whole game, but it's only access to 1 extra resource, whereas sometimes there are many turns where you just need more than 1 card to be able to accomplish your best possible play, and that's where the Bibarel comes in pretty nicely, along with the Skwovet, right? With the Nest Dash, you get to put your hand at the bottom, draw 1 card, and then you get to draw more with the Bibarel, especially if you have multiples of. So this is an engine that we have seen being very successful with Arceus, and there's no reason why it wouldn't work with Charizard. It's just different access to different cards, but you still have the directed search with the Arven for the tool cards or the Puffins or the candies or whatever it is that you need. No passive Rotom V in this list. Instead, we're going with a more aggressive gouging fire, which of course my web browser decided to crash as soon as I clicked on it, but it has 230 HP, the magical number that we were talking about, has a Heat Blast 60 damage, pretty straightforward, and then has a Fierce Fire Outburst attack doing 260 damage, and this Pokemon can't use this attack until it leaves the active spot. So very interesting, different wording, as opposed to this Pokemon can't attack next turn. So those Pokemon, for example Miraidon EX, it can attack and then it can't attack, and then it's ready to attack again, right? In case you weren't able to get that back attack. But Gouging Fire, right? Gouging Fire cannot do that. It attacks, and then if one turn passes, then the next turn it still can't attack until it moves to the bench. Now, realistically, in today's day and age, that's the that's the phrase. Gouging Fire will not be surviving, right? Or it will be gusted around, like if they don't want to deal with the Gouging Fire and then they want to deal with something else, then they will not be attacking it. So that drawback is not really a drawback most of the time. We're only playing one switch card and one jet energy in this, which is completely fine in order to help compensate for that. And then we're also playing the brand new supporter, which is called Codebreaker's Solution. Search your deck for 2 cards, shuffle your deck, then put those cards on top of it in any order. It combines really nicely with B-Barrel. You can potentially make B-Barrel a double quick search using up your supporter, right? But you can leave 2 cards at the top, draw them with B-Barrel very nicely, and just have access to them already, which is fantastic. Yeah, these sort of effects, we have seen them before. Sorry, there's a mosquito here. We have seen them before with Oracle or with Malo more recently, and they always see play. They're very powerful effects, and I don't think Codebreaker will be any different. I have a lot of hope for this card, and I think it's a sort of like slow down its combo pieces, but it's also something very beneficial and very cool to see in the game, especially because you can make like the plays that you need to make, because you can get exactly the cards that you need, which is a lot of the time is going to be much better than just researching and hoping to get what you need. Yeah, there's a very big and important difference. Now, aside from that, the rest of the deck is pretty much the same. I am playing, or Jirachi seeing more play rather, in the B-Barrel versions of the deck, which I think makes sense. You have a lot more frail Pokemon in the back because B-Barrel doesn't have the 280 HP that Pidgeot has. It has a measly 120. You want to protect that from getting Sableye. You want to protect your Charmanders. Sometimes you're going to whiff stuff because you're not directly searching for them. So that extra layer of protection I think is important. Also because you have the Scorbet sitting on the bench. So you don't want to allow your opponent to bypass your Charizard EX and beat you by just taking other prizes along the way. Outside of that, we have our engine of Arven, Iono, and Codebreaker. We have our bosses and our counter catchers. We have our maximum belt. We have our Puffins, our nest balls. Everything's pretty much the same or similar, and this is probably very similar to what we are seeing today with Charizard B-Barrel, which B-Barrel is being extremely outclassed, at least in the West, by Pidgeot, of course. And I cannot imagine, like right now, there's very little time, in the sense that not a lot of time has passed since rotation started in Japan, so these lists are very experimental for sure. It's only been 2 weeks or maybe less, therefore take this with a grain of salt. But I cannot imagine a world where Path to the Peak rotated and Pidgeot isn't the dominant version of Charizard, because it already is the dominant version of Charizard. Yeah, I still need to play with the rotation and with the new decks, but I cannot imagine a world where B-Barrel outclasses Pidgeot for any reason. Yeah, but I did want to present this option because so far, and shout out to Omnipoke, Joe Bernard, for putting the data together and really like looking at this stuff very thoroughly. It seems like there's a 50-50 split between Pidgeot and B-Barrel. Will that trend continue from now until UIC? I don't know, but for now, the B-Barrel is making waves. All right, so yeah, if you have any questions, let me know. Once again, these are base lists to think about, to theorize. I've not played with them. I'm not saying these are the EUIC winning list or the Orlando regional winning list, but these are very good starting points to be able to get a feel of the format, get a feel of the deck flow, and possibly make adjustments here. All right, so hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know which deck you're looking forward to the most in this sort of like how will X deck evolve in the new rotation. Let me know, and maybe your deck will get picked for the next video. Thank you so much, and until next time. Bye-bye.